Many people around the world are fascinated with South Korea, and for good reason. With the rise of K-pop and with the rise in popularity of Korean dramas such as Squid Game being played on streaming services all over the world, such as on Netflix and on Disney Plus. No wonder why people are so fascinated with South Korean culture. And people not only just want to visit, they want to live there as well. I am Blake, and I spent nearly 5 years in South Korea. I was a teacher there, teaching English. And there are good reasons to why I was there for a while. In this video, I'm going to highlight the pros and cons of South Korea. Let's start with the pros. Pro number one, the food is amazing. Anyone can say that their country has the best food in the world. And while this is true, take it from me, as someone who has traveled to many different countries, especially since being abroad, I'm here to tell you that South Korean food is amazing. South Korea has an amazing barbecue culture, such as foods like samgyeopsal and jokbal. Even foods that are not barbecue, like dak galbi. A lot of foods require being cooked on the grill. This gives South Korea an interesting edge over other countries, that this country gives you amazing opportunities to socialize while you're eating. You can cook and you can just put all the spices and all the various side dishes, you could just put them in the grill. And many people, foreigners and Koreans, just socialize, have a good time. It brings people together. Aside from Korean barbecue and other foods similar to this, I actually never got tired of Korean food, such as sundae, kimbap, and bibimbap. Yes, there were times I craved Burger King and Subway, but I'm here to tell you, I and several foreigners never get tired of Korean food. And by the way, it's very healthy. Here in China, I don't really crave Chinese food, although I can eat it. South Korea has a special place in my heart when it comes to food. And don't get me started on the fried chicken. It really has the best fried chicken in the world, especially with all the different flavors. You have to go there to experience it yourself. The second pro of South Korea is that it's a very small country, which makes traveling very simple and stress-free. What I really like about South Korea is that you can go from one end of the country to the very opposite side in a matter of 6 hours by car. You can take the convenient, comfortable, fast, high-speed trains, or you can take a bus. And the buses are actually very comfortable, they're safe, and they're very cozy. In my entire time in South Korea, whether it was by train or by bus, I never traveled for more than 3.5 hours. So it's very convenient. You get from one place to another. It's very nice. The third pro of South Korea is safety. This is a very safe country. I'll never forget on my first day there, seeing women walking alone at night. And this is the fact that although no country is perfect when it comes to safety, it is very safe. There is CCTV almost everywhere in South Korea. Think of a place that you can think of, and there is a CCTV camera there. And the thing about South Korea is that everyone can just be on their phone, walking, whether it's at night or in the day. You can do whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about someone bothering you. If someone tries to start a fight with you, most likely they're probably drunk. Sadly, in the summer of 2023, there were a lot of random cases of murders. But in general, South Korea is a very safe country, especially for women. I also want to add that even children would walk to school by themselves without the parents accompanying them. When I was growing up, I didn't go on the bus without my parents walking me to the bus stop first. So once again, you have safety in South Korea. The fourth pro of South Korea is that it has amazing nature. Before I went to teach English in South Korea, I really wasn't into nature. I was more into amusement parks, being that I'm from Florida. However, about a couple years in, I wanted to give hiking a try, being that South Korea has hills in the distance everywhere, and mountains everywhere. You could see them in the distance. I wanted to give hiking a try, and about a couple years in, I fell in love with hiking. Hiking can also be dangerous. You might run into a brown bear or some kind of dangerous mountain lion. But the nice thing about South Korea is that you can hike alone, and that the most dangerous animal you can encounter is either a wild boar or an Asiatic black bear, which are in the bears are only in one part called Jirisan, and there is like a 1 in a million chance of running into them. So you're very safe hiking there. And in any city, whether it's big or small, you have access to hiking trails. So take advantage of the nature in South Korea. It's beautiful. The fifth pro of South Korea is that it has amazing technology. Okay, so while a long time ago, South Korea was a very poor country. But now, in several decades, it has really developed in a lot of innovations. You got companies like LG U Plus and Samsung, just to name a few. Because of this, South Korea has amazing internet. In my entire time there, I never have problems with connecting to the internet with Wi-Fi. It's very top-notch, very developed when it comes to technology. Although these pros are amazing, and I'm not exaggerating, these pros are legitimate, unfortunately, no country is perfect. Being that I'm from the United States, spent time in South Korea, and currently in China, every country has cons. However, the cons about Korea are not just your typical cons, they're pretty dark. So get your popcorn ready, and I will talk about the cons. But before I do, I just want to mention, if you're enjoying this video, you can go to my Stan store and you get access to my free guide on getting ready to teach English abroad. So do that when you have time. Let's get into the cons. The first con of South Korea is that if you are working there, you have a very low work-life balance. I remember in South Korea, I would constantly, very often take my work home, and I would do it for several hours after work. Even on the weekends, I would go to cafes to get my work done. And I was just a foreigner. Korean people work very hard, and unfortunately, they work much harder than foreigners do. Very often when I left work to go home, the Korean staff would stay much later. They always have to call the parents, and I'm sure in other companies, they work very hard, it's more stressful. South Korea is a very competitive country. And even if you get the high-paying jobs like Samsung or any big company, the more money you make, you're probably even more stressed because there's more responsibility. People in South Korea don't have much time for their families because they work so much. I remember when I was working at the Hagwons, which are private academies, there were kids who would just wait to get picked up from their parents, even like an hour or two after their last class was finished. So yes, the work-life balance is poor, they work very hard, and unfortunately, people are so stressed that South Korea, unfortunately, along with Japan, has very high suicide rates. And it doesn't help the fact that in Asia, talking about mental health is like a taboo thing. People don't really do it. So people are stressed and they don't know how to deal with it. So the high suicide rate, I could guarantee it's because of the low work-life balance and a lot of stress. Con number 2, it is a culture that is very serious about hierarchy. I worked in South Korea for a while, and I'm telling you, even if your boss is terrible or rude or just very incompetent, you have to respect them simply because they're a boss. Your boss is essentially a god. That's how they're treated. They can't be questioned anything. You can't talk back to them. They are always right, and the simple fact that they're a boss or they're older than you makes it impossible to even be on their level. Also, if you're a foreigner in South Korea, you're at the very bottom of the hierarchy chain. So even if you're a good worker and you're working hard and you're contributing, the very fact that you're a foreigner means you don't get taken seriously. Even outside of work, there are terms to address people by their age, and you can look this up on your own, such as oppa, hyang, nuna, 언니. You get the point. And although the intention behind it is pure, I mean, I get it. You're my hyang, you're my big brother, or you're my nuna, you're my big sister. It still is just weird because I personally don't believe in addressing people and treating people because they're older than me. I believe whether you're younger, whether you're older than me, everyone deserves basic respect. But in Korea, that's not the way it is. I remember going to company dinners and we'd always drink soju, and you have to pour it a certain way if the person's older than you. So it creates awkward divides. You get the point. Very extreme hierarchy culture in South Korea. Con number 3 of South Korea is that it has crazy beauty standards. When I say crazy, I'm not exaggerating. The majority of South Korean women, I'd say, I don't have any statistics, but I'd say if you have 10 women, 8 of them will get plastic surgery on their eyes, their nose, their jawline. They get plastic surgery, and check this out. Even parents give their kids, mostly daughters, a graduation gift. Not money, although they may give them money, but plastic surgery. Imagine your own mom, your own parents saying, hey, you need to look better. Get plastic surgery. And in South Korea, it's weird because before I went abroad, I was thinking that there's nothing wrong with the way Asian people look, just like there's nothing wrong with the way other people look. It's the way that God made them. But South Korea, the people there, many people feel insecure about having smaller eyes, or they want big eyes. They want to look white. If you don't believe me, just spend some time in Korea, you'll get what I'm saying. So there's this weird obsession with beauty. And it doesn't help the matter that when you have a resume, your picture has to be on there. Has to be on there. So let's say there's two people. There's a very overweight woman who has a lot of wrinkles, but she's very qualified for the job. She's very qualified. But you have a woman who is very petite, very thin, looks good according to their way. The overweight woman's not going to get the job simply because she doesn't look the part. So this causes a very insecure culture, and I don't get it. It's like self-hating, self-degrading. Because of this standard of having your photo on your resume, this is also a reason why many people get plastic surgery, because it's an investment into their future. Personally, I think it's very toxic, it's very messed up. I mean, obviously men get plastic surgery too, but the beauty standards are very high. Especially in the South Korea is very big when it comes to cosmetics, like companies like Olive Young, for example. And you got Jennie from Blackpink and a lot of people just being put everywhere on stores, on advertisements. You get what I'm saying? Women are constantly fed this reality. I have to look this way, and if I don't, I'm either unattractive or I won't get that job. It's very toxic. The fourth con of South Korea is that you care about how you look too much. I just talked about the toxic beauty standards, but Korea has this weird effect on you. If you're there long enough, you'll get what I'm talking about. But you care about how you look. I remember going on the subway to Seoul. I was just wearing a t-shirt, like what I'm wearing now, like a graphic tee, and some sweatpants and sneakers. And I felt very awkward. It was as if I had no clothes on. Because everyone in South Korea, or many people, they care about how they look. They wear the nicest clothes, the nicest brands, and it has an effect on you mentally that you have to buy the nicest things. You have to buy the coolest shoes. You can't shop at certain places. You have to look a certain way. It's hard to explain, but anyone who's lived in South Korea long enough will tell you that yes, it's competitive in the wrong things, especially with how you look, how you dress, the shoes you wear, the jackets you wear. You get what I'm saying? I'm glad I'm not in that environment anymore. I can wear whatever I want in China, in America, in Russia, where my wife is from, anywhere, and I won't be obsessed with that. But in Korea, I had that effect. Comment below if you went through this, being in South Korea. The final con, the fifth con, is that children, Korean children, sadly can't have a real childhood. When I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, after school, I would watch TV, I'd play outside, I'd go on my scooter. I had a normal childhood. Obviously, no, my life wasn't perfect, but it was normal for the standards of childhood. But in Korea, from a very young age, they go to hagwons, which are private language academies, and they have to take tests. And even in first grade, being that I taught first grade for a year, they take midterms. So from a very young age, there's this pressure. And the parents of kindergartners and little elementary age children were very obsessed with how their kids' scores were. Oh, my kid got this score. How did your kid do? Oh, my kid got this score. How did your kid do? And parents, even among little children, are comparing the scores of their children. It's very toxic. And kids have so much pressure. Several children in Korea go to public school during the day, and then after public school, they have to go to the English hagwon, which is they go there for a couple hours to improve their English skills, and then perhaps they'll go to the math hagwon, or they'll play piano. So the point I'm making is that they're never free just to go home, play, watch TV, do what they want to do. There's all this pressure of making their parents satisfied. And after all these activities, they have to go home and do their homework. And several kids will do their homework until late at night. I remember there was one student I taught. At the time, she had to be no older than 9 or 10. This was 5 years ago. But I remember I always asked her, what did you do this weekend? She'd say, study. Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Study. That's the reality for many kids. And obviously, parents don't have to send their kids to hagwons and don't have to do these things for them. But there's the pressure. It happens to them when they're kids. So let's say you have Korean children and you don't want your kids to go to the hagwons. They just go to school and they just can go home, play, do what they want. Your kid will be bullied, will be an outcast because they're different. So it's a lose-lose situation. You send your kids to all these academies and have all this academic pressure on them, and they'll be depressed and stressed. Or you can just let them be free and they'll be ostracized and bullied. It really is a lose-lose situation. I really hope in the future kids have more rights in Korea, and I'm not saying Hagwons are bad, but there definitely needs to be some regulations on how much exposure they get. Because all the way up until they take their SAT, they're constantly preparing for this exam. In fact, the exam is so serious that it's like a federal day, that on this day, airports have to be quiet, there might not be any flights, there can't be any noise. That's how serious it is, because if the kid doesn't get a certain score, it essentially ruins their life. Because in Korea, if you don't go to a good university, your life is essentially ruined because employers care about that. Unless they choose to go abroad, or I don't know, they can start their own business. It's very difficult to succeed in Korea if you don't go to university. Before you comment on my video saying I'm ignorant or I'm not grateful, I want to tell you, no place is perfect. And South Korea is a country I'm very grateful for. This country gave me the opportunity to go abroad, gave me the opportunity to start a new life, gave me the opportunity to start a new career, and even gave me the opportunity to meet my wife, who was there studying. So I'm very grateful for this country. The pros are legitimate, and they're worth going to South Korea to teach English for. I think South Korea is a really good place to start your teaching journey because it's difficult, it's hard work, and you'll get good experience. And if you want to continue teaching in other countries, South Korea will give you good experience. If you're interested in wanting to learn more about how to teach English abroad, whether it's in South Korea or somewhere else, go to my Stan store, see the products I offer for your benefit to help you. And if you want someone to talk to, we could do a one-on-one consultation together. I could listen to you, see what you want, what your goals are, and I could say, hey, South Korea is good for you, perhaps another country is good for you. Let's talk. Thank you for watching my video. I have really good memories from South Korea. You can always look at my past videos and see my memories there. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.